In this video, we will look at using Focus as a planning tool for EAL. What is Focus? Focus is a web-based application that supports schools to access and interrogate holistic data across the broad general education in line with Glasgow's Improvement Challenge, which includes the Government Scottish Attainment Challenge. It lets schools examine their CFE levels through a number of lenses, including EAL and SIMD. For benchmarking purposes, schools also have been allocated comparator schools. In the box here, you can see what the Focus website looks like. You can log into Focus using the school username and password that your head teacher or someone in the senior management team should have. Every school in the city has been allocated a username and a password. When you log into Focus, you get the choice to select a school either from a list of primary schools or a list of secondary schools. Depending on what kind of school you work in, you just choose from one of these drop-down menus and select your school. So how do you access EAL information on Focus? When you log in and choose your school, you're taken to the equity page. That looks like the box that's on the left-hand side of this page. This displays a variety of information, including lists and pupils in SIMD 1 and 2, looked after pupils, pupils with free school meals, etc. It shows the different percentages for your school, the city and nationally, and it gives an overview of how your school compares to others, both locally and nationally. The orange box with the little person inside that looks like they're speaking provides data on the percentage of EAL learners in your school, again in the city and nationally. And down at the bottom, the blue box provides data on the ethnicity of pupils in your school, the city and nationally also. When you click on the EAL graph, it will take you to a page that looks like this. You can see that the information in this page is split into the English language levels. It also includes a section for non-EAL learners as well. The language level information is taken directly from CMIS, so it is important that the CMIS information is kept up to date for all pupils to ensure that the information gathered is accurate. It looks at the attainment data for all areas of literacy and numeracy, and the information can be broken down using a filter button, which in primary, if you're looking for separate information for P1, P4 and P7 is really useful. For secondary colleagues, all of the information gathered is for S3 pupils only. You can see the filter button on the left-hand side of the page here. Next to that is a button which gives you the option to view the data either in a chart or a table. Here we can see what the table option looks like. It lists the percentages of achievement for each language level. It also has the number of pupils that represents that in the brackets next to it. Here you can see the options that you have when you click the filter button. As you can see, you can sort by primary 1, primary 4 and primary 7. You can look at the achievement info or what's not been achieved. You can look at the different components of the Curriculum for Excellence, and you can also break down the information by year. Is Focus data useful? It does provide a lot of information which allows us to understand the strengths and needs of our bilingual learners. A particular strength that should be noticed is that competent bilingual learners are outperforming non-EAL pupils in almost every area. This is a great achievement for our pupils, and it should be known and recognised. It works well as a collaborative planning tool. You cannot raise attainment on your own for these learners, but can work with others using this information as a guide to target those areas of support. English language level data does need to be kept up to date, and this cannot be solely down to the EAL teacher, and this has been stressed as important to the head teachers when we've spoken to them. Here are some examples of how you could use this data. The information gives you a more comprehensive insight into the performance levels across the school. It can allow for targeted areas of support to be identified and focused on. When considering raising attainment levels in school, developing competence pupils are often those that require the most support, as academic language is being learned at this level. Focus can identify where developing competence learners need more support to progress. Obviously, new to English and early acquisition pupils will still need targeted support. This identifies and justifies providing support for more advanced pupils also. Data is something that every teacher in the city is using to inform their planning, and this can help us do that too in the EL service. A way in which we can use this data to help us inform our planning is to think about it broken down as facts, story, and action. The fact is the information that you will gather in the grids in the spreadsheet that will be provided to you. This will tell you what is happening in your school with regards to attainment through various stages in English language levels. Using the facts that you have gathered, you will begin to develop a story about the bilingual learners in your school. Is it obvious that they're all performing well in reading, but there's a big difference when it comes to writing? Are your developing competence pupils not performing well as you thought they would? What the facts tell you helps you to develop the story of your school. And then the action is the next steps that you will take in response to this. It could be clear that there is a need for more support in writing for competent learners. You should talk to school staff about how you might tackle this together. You might decide to talk to an EL teacher in a neighbouring school who might be performing better in this area, and it could be useful to collaborate and share ideas with them. So what would we like you to do with the facts section? We would like you to speak to the senior management team in your school and request access to Focus. Look up your establishment and use the tables in the EL summary spreadsheet provided to you to note down the details about EL attainment levels. You can gather the details from these tables or the charts provided in Focus and transfer the information to the grids on the spreadsheet. Remember, if you're in primary, to gather all the details for literacy and numeracy for Primary 1, Primary 4 and Primary 7. In secondary schools, it's for S3. Once you have gathered your data to inform the facts, then you move on to the story. Think about the question, what does this tell me about my establishment? What do those facts that you can see in those numbers tell you about your school? Think about EL as a whole. Are there any areas that stand out as needing more support than others? Have there been any things that you've noticed that you're quite surprised about? Were there any dips in any of the attainment levels? Think about all of these things and what is it telling you about your school. Finally, once you've gathered all your information together and you have got your story section, then you move on to the action section. And here you'll think about what can you do as a result of this information. How will it influence your future planning? What might you change or do differently in your day-to-day teaching? Will you work with different colleagues to try and meet the needs of the target learners? Will you work collaboratively with different colleagues in your schools to target different pupils? Will your planning change because of this? So what should you do next? Speak to your head teacher or someone from your senior management team about gaining access to Focus. They should already have a password. Use the Focus grids that you can either find in Teams or I will send you a copy and complete the information for your school. Send the completed grids back to me at the email address listed here, and if you've got any questions or need any support, please contact me on this email address also.